everybody. Today I am heading into the city for an appointment, and I figured I would like to tell you guys a couple stories. Story time with Tam. How's that? It's about turning lemons into lemonade, just like I put in the title. And it's also about how we can have competing emotions right at the same time. And that's okay because we're human, and that's just how that works. Not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, not a counselor. Just been through a lot of different things and I just want to tell you a little bit. So let's start off light. light. In the garden, on the homestead. I can enjoy these super cute new chicks at the same time that my pumpkin squash vines are dying, or that the leaves on a different squash are full of mildew and they stink to heaven, or that the squash bugs are basically ruling the garden at this time. But I can still enjoy watching the cute chicks as they grow up, and now their legs are really like the legs are like teenage legs now. They're really gangly. I kind of compare it to like Bambi, the movie Bambi, when she goes out on ice and can't walk well. That's kind of how these chicks are, and they're just adorable. So I can watch them with joy and still understand that things go on in the garden that I'm not happy with, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. On a real note, there was an experience I had when my kids were 2 years old and 7 months old, and my first husband wanted a divorce. And at the time, I was shocked, devastated, bitter, resentful, angry, embarrassed, ashamed, scared. There were a lot of different emotions going through my mind and fear going through my mind as I was trying to process, what was going to go on and what the reality was really going to be. And somehow I managed to let go of him and let him do his thing, because he was going to do it anyway. So whether I tried to cling or yell or carry on or whatever, or whether I just released him, the result was going to be the same. He was going to go do his own thing. Well, a side benefit of being a newly divorced person or single parent was that my tuition, because I have a bachelor's degree in music, and then I have an associate's degree on top of that in health information technology. So I had applied for nursing school. I got accepted right away, but I was pregnant with my first child, and I said, there's no way I could do nursing school and have a newborn. And so I said, well, what else can I do to apply all these credits for nursing? And health information technology is what came to mind. So I had just started the fall, the first year of the health information technology program, when my husband said he wanted a divorce, and I had the young kids. Well, as it turned out, my program director there said, she came in one day, and everybody knew, the class knew what was going on, and they were trying to be supportive and stuff. So she came in one day, and she said, here, sign this, sign this, sign this. And I'm like, okay, just trusting her, like, whatever. And I get done, and I said, oh, okay, so what did I sign? And she says, well, did you want all your tuition and books to be paid for? I was like, okay, sure. So as a single parent, I qualified to have all of my tuition and all of my books taken care of, paid for through the whole program. So that whole thing was right off my mind. I did not have to worry about that at all. I could focus more on the kids. I could focus more on studying, and I was working, I think, part-time at the time. When I got done, I sat for a certification exam, which led me to make more money. And I had been getting WIC, and I had been getting food stamps, and we had been certified the kids had been certified for Medicaid, like each month. And when I got my raise, it turned out that I made, when I went back to the place that you go to get food stamps, which I can't remember what it's called. They've been closing those offices down. I made $10 too much to qualify for anything. So I had been receiving daycare assistance, and I could receive like emergency funds for, like, one time my car broke down and it was a big repair, and things like that, and food stamps. And I made $10 too much to get any of that, which presented a problem. So I had to go into solution mode, and I didn't know what to do. But as it turned out, my grandmother was allowed to come in. She had a background check done, and she was allowed to come in and babysit the kids, and then she would get paid directly by the state. Pretty sure that's how that went. So those were two examples of things that, like, there's good things and bad things. There's bad things and good things, and they're all existing at the same time, and we just have no idea. We have no idea about, you know, how it's going to work out and things like that. Here's a garden example. I love to have bouquets inside the house. I think they're gorgeous. It reminds me of, you know, what's outside. So if I am too much inside my head, or if I'm feeling moody and I'm like, I don't want to go outside, I can look at the bouquet and say, well, maybe I do want to go outside. Maybe I need a new bouquet, and it kind of forces me to go out. But in order to get the bouquet, I have to cut flowers. So once I cut the flowers, they're gone, they're dead. They're not going to produce seeds, they're not going to reproduce, nothing. But there's the good and the bad, and the bad and the good. And that duality is a good thing. Let's see. There was a time that I taught and directed programs at a local private college. And enrollment was really high, and we had a lot of students, a lot of faculty, a lot of people, a lot of students at different levels in their programs. Plus, they had to pass certification exams at the end, and things were going pretty well for the programs. We did well. Certification rates were pretty high. Participation rates were pretty high, and I made sure too, like when I taught the classes, I made sure that it was the same kind of high level, difficulty classes that I would receive too, because I knew when these students went out into the work world, and this work world in particular, I knew that if they did not have all of the preparation they needed, they were going to get eaten alive by the departments they were going to go into, and people would see right through them, and they would say, well, what is going on with X college, because the graduates are just not prepared, they don't know what they're doing, they have no idea how to do these basic functions and things like that. So I made sure that these students were very prepared, and that I was available for them when they needed things as well. Well, sometimes, and I probably would have stayed there for a long, long time. I think I was there 7 years, 5 years, 7 years. I don't know. It was a little while, and I would have stayed there for a long time. But they did get a new vice president of academics, and that person was very intent on being in charge of everything and removing informal leaders as much as possible. So there was myself and several other program directors that, because we were courageous, because we fought for our students, because we believed in what we were teaching and we believed in our students, there were opinions that we held that the person didn't agree with, and the person made it very difficult for many of us. And then I realized, I don't know if I really like this as much as I thought I did. I don't think I'm going to stay here forever. This isn't as much fun as it used to be. I mean, it was challenging, but it was still fun. So I looked around for other positions and happened to land a coding position, medical, surgical coding from home, remotely. That was right up my alley. And so it also paid more than what I was making as a college teacher and as a program director over a couple programs. So I managed to be somebody who worked at home, and this is while my kids, I think the kids were in high school by this point. So, you know, the high schoolers, they think that they don't need anything, but having mom around was probably a good thing for them. So I was able to work at home and make more money and be in charge of myself. That was it. I didn't have to go to like in-person meetings or seminars or webinars. I didn't have to see people if I didn't want to. It ended up being a very good thing for me. And then this working at home in a specialized area was very good for me too. So sometimes the best revenge is success. So let's relate that back to gardening, because I always got to relate it back to gardening. If somebody says, oh, you have a black thumb and you'll never grow anything, they can have their opinion, but the best revenge is success. Success is the best revenge. And when you're growing beautiful tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, and you have produce that you're putting up and you're putting away for the future, that's great. That's a great feeling. And you can say to your haters, hey, you said I had a black thumb, but I don't see you growing that. whatever you might want to say. Okay, so that one. Okay. Oh, here was an example. This was interesting. And I'm not one, you know, I don't know if you noticed yet, but I try to tell it like it is. And I also, I try not to like just run away from problems. I try to figure out, how am I going to deal with it? How are we going to get to the other side? And a lot of that was because of the single parenting I had to do. That was for about 8 years. So I couldn't, you know, if there was a problem, I couldn't just sit around and mope about it. I had to take care of it. And if there were increases in bills, I had to figure out, well, how am I going to get a better job to make more money to pay for these kids and their expenses? And I didn't have a choice about, you know, like moping or work. And I was not going to work, you know, 3 or 4 jobs to see the kids through either. So the one big thing I learned about single parenting is that I got to be in charge of all of it. So there is a downside to that, because you don't necessarily have the other parent to bounce things off of. But on the other hand, you don't have the other parent to butt heads with about a lot of different things that may come up. So I get to set the bedtimes. I get to set the wake up times. I get to decide, are we eating on paper tonight, paper plates, or are we eating on, you know, the whatever, regular plates, the ceramic plates. Usually it was going to be paper. A lot of things. A lot of times we would go out to eat, because not to fancy places, not to expensive places, but sitting down, I could focus on the kids and listen to what they had to say from the day. I could listen to their struggles. We could all talk. We had time. We would eat. Somebody else was doing the cleaning up, and then we got to go in the car and we got to go home. So anyway, just some of the different things from single parenting. So if you're a single parent, I understand that. If you're a divorced parent, I understand that too. It's not easy. It's not easy. And the more brain work we can do about it, the more we can kind of nudge our thoughts into good directions, the easier it gets, because we don't have to struggle with ourselves. If we're struggling with the other parent, or we're struggling with an ex, or we're struggling with their new girlfriend, or the new stepdad, or whatever, at least we're not struggling with ourselves when we do that brain work. And like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist or a counselor or whatever. I just been through different things. Recently I shared in my small group about, and this is again more about how you can be happy and sad at the same time. My mom, I think I shared last week Friday, yeah. It was her birthday. And I don't even know, 23rd, whatever the 23rd is. It was her birthday. And she died 4 years ago. Well, 5 years before that, her kidneys failed. So she had been on dialysis for 5 years before she died. When she was dying, like the hospital called us and said, come and see your mom. And if you hear this, her pressures are dropping. That means you need to go like now. That means they're doing CPR on her, or him if it's your father. At any rate, she was dying. They would do CPR and they'd bring her back. And we were in the hospital. There was my husband and my sisters and some friends of the family and my kids. And we were in the waiting room and we're waiting. We don't know what's going on. And we're really sad about the situation. But on the other hand, dialysis for her was just a very, very hard life. Very hard. Well, 2 weeks before, around 2 weeks before she died, or was dying, my little nephew Luke was born. And he's adorable. And my mom got to be there with my sister in labor, and she got to see the baby, and she was very pleased, and we were all glad that she was there for her. We didn't realize that she was going to die so soon, like afterward. I mean, nobody necessarily knows when things are going to happen. So while we were in the waiting room, if we started feeling like just way too sad, then we were able to say, pass the baby. And then I'd hold the baby and I'd look down at this beautiful, beautiful creation. The tiny little hands and the little button nose and the little thing in the chin, and the cute little cheeks. And my heart would get all warm again. And like the sadness, like the clouds would kind of go away for a little while. And so I could have the joy of, holding my nephew, and the shared experience of us being able to pass the baby and feel good, along with the sadness of my mom dying. So death and life, I mean, they're two ends of the same spectrum. Going back to a gardening analogy, the seed has to die to make a seedling. They have to die. The plant has to die to release the seeds. Like, I just took a picture of my swamp milkweed, and it's got all these puffy things in it right now. And like a dandelion, as the seed pod opens, that's holding all the seeds, like a dandelion, when the wind catches it, all those seeds are going to scatter. And that's how that works. Oh, this was a fun one. And I wrote this stuff down today because I knew if I didn't write it down, I'd forget. And I'd go off topic. So I'm trying to stay on topic. So I grew up in a very small city, 2 by 2 mile square, and went away to college. And then I swore I would never move back to that city. I moved to a city close by when I was done with college, but it wasn't that city. My first house, though, I purchased in that city, and it was right next door to one of our church family neighbors. So they were like, "Oh yeah, they've got a house for sale next door," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Sure, let's do this." So I bought that house, and my kids were elementary school age, and they were going to go to the same elementary school that I went to. It was still around, and I thought, well, isn't that special? That's kind of cool. So we go to visit this elementary school, and they have a playground, but all the playground equipment, the paint's chipped off, and it's all beat up, and it looks terrible. And I'm like, I wonder if we can't just paint the playground equipment. And I was like, I could buy the paint, and we could get some volunteers, and we could just do it. So I approached the school and said, hey, can we paint the playground? And they said no. At first, they said no, because they said that the custodial staff are the ones that are supposed to do that, and besides, the school's going to be torn down next year anyway, so what difference would it make? And this was in like I think it was July or August, so it was the summer before that final school year. And I thought, well, why can't they have something beautiful to, or, nice to play on in the meantime? So me being tenacious, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I think I just wore them down, and they finally said, well, yes, you can have a crew paint. We're not providing the paint, and we're not providing the people, and you can paint, but our custodial staff have to be right there, and they have to be watching and supervising as you're doing it. I'm like, I don't care if you invite the whole school board there to watch us paint this playground. Just thank you for letting us do it. And so we painted the playground. It looked nice for the kids. So when they came back to school, there were these bright colors. It was very fun, kid-friendly. And that whole school year went by, and they enjoyed it. And then the next year, yes, they demolished the school. They rebuilt the school. And I think they put in a new playground. So Tam, you need to relate it to gardening. You know where I'm going with that. If you don't like what you see outside your window, you can change it. If you don't know how, I will help you. I have no problem helping you. None. I love to help you see beauty. I love to help you see butterflies and hummingbirds and Baltimore Orioles and cardinals, or whatever you want to see. Heck, if you want to see turkeys and you want to see rabbits, we can make that happen too. I have connections. No, not really, but I know what to plant to attract what it is that you want to see. If you are seeing a big old mess and you want it to be a little less messy, I can help with that. But you get to decide what you see and and maybe you're looking out your kitchen window and you're like, doggone it, if I have to see the neighbor's trash cans one more day, I'm gonna pull all my hair out. Well, save your hair, call me, contact me. Let's figure out some kind of solution so that you don't have to see this unsightly stuff. I mean, you can't control what your neighbors are doing, but you have control of your own household and your own area. All right, and this last one. Oh, yeah. So my what do you call it? The moral of the story of the playground one was they said we couldn't, and we did. So this last story I'm going to share with you. I think I timed it pretty well. So I'm almost to where I need to be. Last story I'm going to share with you is an acquaintance who lives in the very same city where I had bought my first house, had a glorious garden in her front yard. She was growing things like pumpkins and I think it was tomatoes and a bunch of other food products in her garden in the front. And they came by, the city came by and said she had to tear it all out because there were complaints that it was weedy. So the city is trying to say, no, you can't have a garden. You can't grow food in your front yard. I guess what I'm going to say. Oh, yes, you can. I know it's not nice to point, but oh, yes, you can. But what you have to do is you have to make it look floofy. Not floofy. You have to make it look organized. You have to make it look like it's planned out. You probably, instead of growing vines on the ground, you probably have to grow them up on a trellis. If you think about like raised kitchen garden beds, there's my plug. Raised kitchen garden beds like you see at gardenary.com. They don't look messy or unkempt. They don't look like there's weeds. They look like they're planned out. They look like they're organized. They're more pleasing to the eye, less likely to draw in critters, whatever it might be. But the city's going to have a lot less issue with it if it looks neat and tidy and orderly. And in fact, when you have something that looks neat and tidy and orderly, your spirit, your consciousness, whatever you want to call it, appreciates it, and you just feel better about everything. It's kind of like after you clean out your car. If your car's been really messy and you clean your car out, you're like, I can breathe again. Oh crap, I think I went the wrong way. That's what I get for not paying attention. Oh, I'm late too. Okay. So anyway, if you want nice gardens, we can make a plan for nice gardens. If you want to put up like shrubbery or things that will conceal what you're doing behind the shrubbery, so neighbors aren't looking at it and gawking at it and calling the city on you and giving you tickets, I can do that for you as well. If you don't want to work with me as a garden coach or garden consultant, there are other consultants on Gardenary in the metro area that you can work with. But it's nice to have somebody who will come out and look at your situation, examine the sun, the space, the condition of your soil, the critters that you have, and ask you, what is it that you would like to grow? Maybe you don't want to grow food, but you want to grow a wildflower garden. And you need help making it look more formal so they don't yell at you. That's something that I can do, or any other garden consultant, garden coach can do for you as well. So don't hesitate to give me a call or somebody else a call or contact me. Even if you just want me to come and make a plan and then you're going to put it all in yourself, that's great. That's awesome. And like the playground, if you have a garden and it's kind of run down and you want to do something with it and you don't know what to do, give me a call, give one of the other garden consultants a call or garden coaches a call, and we can help you revamp it into something that's more pleasing to you. Because a garden, it doesn't have to stay static all the time. It doesn't have to stay the same all the time. So, all right, Tammy Lowe, the Lazy Northern Gardener, with my stories for the day. And I just want to tell you guys to learn and grow some more. And if something's not working, tear it out and try again. If some plant doesn't seem happy, tear it out, put it somewhere else, see if it's a bit happier in another place. I love you guys. And I hope to talk to you again soon. Bye.